about you. Love to know what grades you teach, what kind of classrooms you have. Anything else? And as I wrote in the chat, please feel free to interrupt me at any time if you have a question. I'm more than happy to answer them. Just about to get started here. See if a few more of our colleagues will join us. K-5 math coordinator in New York City. I'm thrilled to have you here. I think you might find our eSingapore math program quite exceptional, particularly in terms of teaching fractions. So I'll be interested to hear your reaction. Just about ready to go. A couple more minutes before the hour strikes. Is that in a public school, private school?
Is it okay if I just talk? So
That'd be great.
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, we're a private school in New York City.
Okay.
Yeah, and we actually currently use Math and Focus as for our scope and sequence. So
okay.
Yeah.
Our program is precisely aligned with Math and Focus. I'm a Math and Focus veteran. I love it. I know a lot of people complain about it, but I just think it's a marvelous program. So
I do agree.
We are precisely aligned with
Yeah.
Math and Focus. The lessons run right along, and the all of the standards and the approach to the standards are the same.
Mhm.
Just before we start, I'll be back in 1 second. I'm back, not gonna lie, had to let the dog in. So we're ready to go. It's 4 o'clock. I'm glad to see everyone here. It looks like we have another colleague that I'd like to admit to. There we go. So I'm thrilled to be with you today, teachers. My name is Kathleen Wallace. I am a senior math consultant here at East West Math. I have a long, decades-long experience in K-5 education, general classroom, special education. I worked in basic skills, and towards the end of my work, I was the math coach in a district with 3 elementary schools and about 150 teachers. So I had a wonderful time working personally with teachers to work on their lessons and their approach to math education, and I just love it. Recently, I have been working with East West Math and eSingapore Math. We have a wonderful product. In my work, I have seen a lot of, particularly since the lockdowns, I've seen a lot of electronic programs, and I think a lot of them fall short. However, this one is exceptional, and I'm excited to tell you why. So we're going to talk about, actually, this is my favorite topic. It's my favorite topic to teach, and I'm going to just stop, and we've got another colleague joining us. Welcome, teachers. I'm glad to see everyone here today. We're talking about teaching fractions and how we can best practices in getting this complicated topic across to our students. I've opened the chat. If you have a question while we're going along, I'm more than happy to stop and answer it. So welcome, and I'm thrilled that you're here. So a lot of you may agree from your own personal experience. I know it is in mine that fractions are indeed the most challenging topic in K to 5 math. Why is this? I could probably spend a whole day's workshop talking to you about why fractions are so challenging. Just a few things very quickly. First of all of a sudden, children have mastered the whole numbers, and then all of a sudden they've got this strange notation. The notation is new and sometimes confusing and confounding for students. Um, Fractions have so many representations. We start off with just the simple thought of half a sandwich in third grade, but then fractions turn into ratios, fractions turn into other rational numbers. Oops, I've got to admit some more of our colleagues. Glad to see everyone here. Welcome, teachers. We've just gotten started. If you have a question, please feel free to ask me a question in the chat. That would be great. So I'd love to find someone who disagreed with me, but I think I always ask teachers this when I meet them, and they always tell me, in particular, middle school teachers tell me how they see students come to them in sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, and they're really struggling with the concept of fractions. Now that's even more complicated because we're looking at them algebraically, and they don't have that firm foundation, a concept in their minds. So one thing that I've discovered, and if I haven't made it clear, I am a Singapore math specialist. I cannot advocate for the Singapore approach enough. I've seen it all, and I have not seen any approach that is so thorough and has such success. And of course, we need only to look at the high performing Asian countries to know that this is, in fact, the most effective approach to teaching mathematics to young children. What Singapore math does is it develops these fraction concepts from the very beginning. And of course, those of you who are familiar with Singapore math, again, this is a whole nother topic for another workshop. But we do this through the CPA approach so that students have they work with concrete models of these fractional concepts, as simple as paper strips that are divided in third grade, all the way up to very complicated models of multiplication and division of a fraction by a fraction. And because students have these visuals and these pictorials to work with, they develop a strong visualization. The other piece that I mentioned this before, this is so critically important. The understanding of fractions for our K to 5 students is going to be a gateway to their success in algebra. If they are struggling, with fractional concepts when they arrive in middle school, it's going to be very difficult going forward. I just need to switch my view here. There we go. Like I said, I can't stress this enough. There's some very sophisticated, subtle, abstract relationships. And so we have to make sure that our students have that firm foundation and that they really understand fractions in all their applications. I seem to be, my screen is not wanting to switch over. So let me just see if I can change what my screen is looking like. Huh. There we go. I think I've got it now. Here we go. So this is we stress this so much in Singapore math. We cannot teach procedures only. We must work toward understanding and a deep understanding of all of these ideas. Just one of my favorite examples is the algorithm for, or the procedure for dividing a fraction by a fraction. We just tell students to invert the second fraction and multiply, and in so doing, first of all, we don't teach them how to understand them, but we also deprive them of that deep meaning behind what does it actually mean to divide a fraction by a fraction. These are some visuals from our eSingapore program. So let's go ahead and look at how we can do this using these Singapore math strategies. As I mentioned before, we always start out with, in the CPA approach, concrete pictorial abstract. When we teach a new material, we always present it with a concrete model. And by concrete, we mean an object, whether it's paper, snap cubes, any number of the items that you all have in your classrooms, that the students can touch with their hands and manipulate. And that's why we call them manipulatives. That's very important. When we teach this way, we always allow plenty of time for students to work with these manipulatives. We don't rush it. We let them explore them and use them and apply them to the work we're doing until they have internalized the understanding of the fractional notation. They need to, at the beginning, so important, and this sometimes gets glossed over, is they need to understand that we're talking about the concept of equal parts, and also how these equal parts refer to the same size whole. If we're comparing, adding, subtracting, any of those things, we really have to stress over and over again this concept of going back to what's the whole. And as I said, there's a multitude of paper models that can be used for to get this point across, and I can't recommend or stress those enough. So our children are doing pretty well. We see some understanding of what's going on. So now we're always pushing towards a more abstract situation, never too quickly. But once we see that, then we move up one level in abstraction, and that puts us in the pictorial. So we've taken these concrete models, and now we're looking at pictures of the concrete models. And what that does is it asks the child's mind to manipulate visually and mentally these ideas that they've been working at concretely. Lastly, and again, so important, when the students are ready, we move them to the abstract symbols. And we know they're ready. You can see it. You can see the work happening as they go forward with the when they start to see these abstract pieces. Sometimes we go back to the pictorial, sometimes back to the concrete, sometimes we meld them together, and this is where our artistry as teachers come in. I'd like to share with you now a little example from our eSingapore program. Now that I've mentioned all three of these, try and see if you can detect in this video. This is an instructional video. The program consists of instructional videos, targeted practice, and then benchmark practice. This is a video. See if you can pick out the instances of CPA in our instruction.
Mrs. Williams fills one bucket with 1/4 gallon of water. How many similar buckets can she fill with 6 gallons of water? We divide to solve this problem. 6 divided by 1/4. Let's use models to help us. To show fourths, we divide each whole into 4 parts. Each part represents 1/4 gallon of water. We see that one whole is made up of 4/4. This means that the number of 1/4 gallons in 1 gallon is 4. Therefore, the number of 1/4 gallons in 6 gallons is equal to 6 multiplied by 4. We can see that 6 divided by 1/4 is equal to 6 multiplied by 4.
And I really appreciate this presentation because, again, so many times, I don't know about you, but even in my own instruction, this was never explained to me. It was just told, invert the fraction, multiply. But this model clearly shows how and why there are 24 quarter gallons in 6. So our program, and most of the, as does all of the Singapore model, the Singapore texts out there, fraction work begins in grade 3 with the fundamentals. We start off with just looking at the old pizza, and then we look at bar models, and we also include the all-important, and again, this is another piece I can't stress enough, the number line involved in fractions. Third graders will learn to, and this is precisely aligned with the standards, they're going to learn to compare fractions, and they're going to learn to recognize as well as generate equivalent fractions. So if you look at this illustration on the left, again, so many times we just we teach them the algorithm to multiply, find a common denominator. This model clearly shows how, it clearly shows the quantitative relationship between these 3 fractions. And something that if you've taught third graders this, and a concept that's really hard for them to wrap their heads around, is the fact that 1/2 is greatest, but 2 is a smaller number. So this emphasizes the importance of teaching this with models. And on the right side with this orange bar model, we learn about, again, we could teach them just the algorithm to find equivalent fractions, but when we work with models like this, we clearly see not only the relationship between these fractions, but they also start to see these deeper patterns that occur when we're talking about equivalent fractions. And once these skills are acquired, we move on through the program with meaningful practice. And the practice that we provide is directly related to the lesson that they just had. It's not just random pieces coming out, but the practice will have just a tiny bit of higher challenge. And we move on to grade 4. And those of you who are familiar with Singapore and the standards of as well, we're going to, as we move into grade 4, we're going to compare unlike fractions. So we need to find a way to find common denominators. We need to find equivalent fractions by using multiplication. Now we're ready to, again, for a slightly higher level of abstraction, but the children are going to be able to handle this because they've had this strong foundation in the visuals and in the concrete. And also in 4th grade, we are going to learn to add and subtract unlike fractions. And the program goes through this in a detailed manner, providing visuals and models all along the way. So here is another example of a lesson about, you'll see, about unlike denominators.
Carol ate 1/3 of a tortilla. Alfredo ate 1/2 of another tortilla of the same size. Elton ate 3/4 of another equal-sized tortilla. All the tortillas are the same size. Carol ate less of her tortilla than Alfredo. We say that 1/3 is less than 1/2. We write it this way. Elton ate more of his tortilla than Alfredo. We say that 3/4 is greater than 1/2. We write it this way. We can only compare fractions from the same whole or equal-sized wholes.
Good job.
Okay, the program just told them they did a good job completing the instructional video. I've covered it up, but I hope you saw how this video combined both the pictorial and the abstract. It also the program highlights the information that it's talking about. They highlight the part of the model in blue so that the child knows exactly what to focus on. And then we go on to 5th grade. And if any of you have taught fractions in 5th grade, you know that the fraction work in 5th grade gets quite sophisticated. We are going to see multiplication and division of fractions and whole numbers, fraction by a whole number by a fraction. Some 5th grade programs will include dividing a fraction by a fraction. And we're also going to introduce the concept of area with fractional side length. And you can see these are all examples of models from our program. All of our lessons include a concrete model that's not only presented, but explained in detail and highlighted. Here is another example from our program.
Mr. Harris has 8/9 yards of rope. He cuts it into 4 equal pieces. What is the length of each piece of rope? We divide to solve this problem. 8/9 divided by 4. Let's use a model to help us divide. To divide 8/9 by 4, we divide these 8 parts by 4. So we see that 8/9 divided by 4 is equal to 2/9. Therefore, each piece of rope is 2/9 yards long. We can also find the answer without using models. 8/9 divided by 4 is equal to 8/9 multiplied by 1/4. Divide 8 and 4 by the common factor, 4, then multiply the fractions. We get 2/9.
Something I appreciate about this approach is that we've got, I like to call it something for everybody. We have this, the entry level part where we show the model, and you can clearly see when they highlight it that if we want to divide those 8 parts, those 8/9, we can easily do that visually. But it also shows not only the division with the reciprocal, but it shows the canceling out of the common factors, and then they come to the same conclusion. And something else I'd like to point out about Singapore math is known as a problem-solving approach. And as you can see, most of these lessons are based on a real world problem. It's a word problem that we solve. So the other part that I just love about our program, and I know that the children do too, is we know that children love to play games, and every section has a game attached to it, one or more games attached to it. We talked about bar models last week. this this game has incorporated bar models and fractions, so the children have a visual representation. For instance, this is for grades 3 and 4. Obviously, the child needs to figure out what goes in that question mark, and they know that from working on bar models, that the question mark is the unknown. What's going to fit in there? So here's just a little quick clip of the bar model. And of course, this was me playing the game when I made the recording. You can see as I did better, and in this slide, it shows there, it becomes more abstract. The labels are not placed on, it becomes a little more difficult as we keep going. Here's another one. This is for the older children. We're now into decimals, which that's another piece. We tie in the decimals and fractions in 5th grade. Here's a little math soccer game that I know the children enjoy. That's fun. That went wrong. So it's fast moving, and a feature I'd like to point out about the program is that we have adaptive learning. All of the topics include a diagnostic, so the child, as they enter the program, perform a diagnostic assessment, and it's short and painless. And then the program assigns the child's a unique, it assigns the child a unique learning path based on that diagnostic. And we have this page this is the dashboard page. It shows all the topics for the grade the child is in, and it shows their progress. So the child doesn't need to have to figure out, or the parent, where do I start? What should I be doing? The program takes care of all those assignments for it. We have, as I said, the gamified practice, and then they can work towards these goals. And we have another feature. Let's see, did I put that here? Did I? So the eSingapore Math provides instruction based on proven strategies, the CPA approach, adaptive learning, it's personalized and mastery-based. And we have targeted practice, both exercises and games. And as I mentioned before, the eSingapore Math is completely aligned with Math in Focus, Engage, Eureka, Dimensions, Primary Math, and with all the Common Core. I'd love to answer any questions you might have. I'm happy to stick around as long as you want to. I did want to let you know, there's my email address. I'd love for you to get in touch with me, and we can set up a free trial period with the program so that you can get to know it very closely and see how successful your students are going to be with eSingapore Math. So I'm going to open the chat up, or if you'd like to, please feel free to unmute yourself. It is my pleasure. Thank you, Megan, for joining us today.
So in order to get a free trial, what would we just need to contact you?
Yes, there's my email address. Please contact me and we'd love to set you up with that. That's we're very proud of our program and would be happy to let you get inside and see it in more detail.
Okay, I'm contacting you right now. We use the Math and Focus, but we weren't using the Singapore Math part of it.
Yes, eSingapore, our program, eSingapore Math, is not, it's not connected to Math and Focus.
Okay.
Remember the name of the Math and Focus program. Quite frankly, I have worked with both, and I think that eSingapore Math is far superior. But it's a perfect companion to Math and Focus because it's based on the same Singapore program. It's
Yes.
on the same Common Core standards, and the units are the same. The scope and sequence for each grade level is the same. So you could probably not do any better than combining Math and Focus and eSingapore Math.
Okay, thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
So is the eSingapore Math, is it a full program? It's a full curriculum that you could
Yes,
pull
K
from
through
every
5,
single state?
every standard K through 5 is addressed in
Okay.
the
And how would you use a program like this? Like how would a teacher pull up a lesson and then they watch the video and then, or is it, help me understand, is it more of like it's a one-to-one with each kid and an iPad, or?
I think one of the
Books?
advantages to this program is that it can be customized for a broad many different kinds usages.
Mhm.
Yes, it could be used in the classroom, and then children could be for individualized instruction, and then children could work on the assisted practice and the benchmark practice. It could be used for homework.
Mhm.
There could be teacher instruction during the day with the Math and Focus lesson, and then the correlating eSingapore Math lesson could be used at home.
Mhm.
The videos could be used to reinforce what was done in the classroom. It could be used in pull-out programs for children who are needing support. It could be used as I don't know if you have win time or independent work time. The teachers could assign specific videos. It could be used for, in those situations, for both remediation and for enrichment. If
Mhm.
we wanted to move kids ahead, we could do that. If children needed a little more work with a concept, they could go back and refer to the video that correlated to the lesson that they were working on. So
But it's
I
all
think
virtual, is that right? It's all
it's all
virtual?
virtual,
Okay,
yes.
got it. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And I think the flexibility in that regard
Mhm.
is one of the advantages to our program.
Got it. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. I look forward to hearing from you.
Bye-bye.
I'm happy to stick around, teachers, if you have some more questions. Again, please take my email down and let me know how we can set you up with a free trial so that you can get to know eSingapore Math better. Thank you so much for joining us today.